Rain lashed against the kitchen window as Emily slammed the cabinet shut. The glass rattled, echoing through the silence that had filled her home for months. She stood there, clutching the edge of the counter, her knuckles white. The dinner she'd spent hours preparing sat untouched on the table, candles melted to stubs, plates still steaming. Daniel hadn't called. He hadn't even texted. The clock struck 9. Another late night. Another excuse. When she finally heard his car in the driveway, her heart lifted, then quickly sank. She wiped her hands, forcing a smile as he walked in, loosened his tie, and muttered, "Long day." "You didn't pick up my calls," she said softly. He sighed, not even meeting her eyes. "I was in meetings all day, Emily. You know how it is." "You said that yesterday." Daniel looked up, irritation flickering. "What do you want me to say? I'm doing this for us." "For us?" Her voice cracked. "You don't even look at me anymore." "Can we not do this tonight?" He grabbed a plate and walked toward the living room. Emily stared at his back, her chest tightening. The man who once whispered promises into her hair now treated her like a shadow. She wanted to scream, to ask him what went wrong, but instead she whispered, "Good night," and went upstairs alone. That night, Emily lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. She remembered how they used to laugh over burnt pancakes and dance barefoot in the kitchen. Now all that remained was silence. The next morning, she packed him breakfast, hoping to bridge the distance. "I made your favorite, egg muffins," she said with a hopeful smile. Daniel nodded, grabbed his coffee, and said, "I'll eat in the car." He was gone before she could respond. Emily's smile faded. The front door closed with a soft thud, the sound of another day without him. Hours later, she sat on the couch scrolling through her phone, trying not to check his social media. But temptation won. His last post was from a work event 2 nights ago, surrounded by people, laughing. And there was a woman beside him. Sophie. Her stomach dropped. She'd seen Sophie before, Daniel's new project assistant. Younger, stylish, always laughing at his jokes. Emily stared at the photo. The way Daniel leaned toward Sophie, the easy smile on his face, it was the same smile he used to reserve for her. That evening, she decided to make an effort again. She cooked his favorite pasta, set the table, lit candles. When Daniel came home, she greeted him with a nervous smile. "I thought we could have dinner together." He looked at the table and said flatly, "I already ate at the office." "Of course you did." The words slipped out before she could stop them. Daniel frowned. "Emily, I'm exhausted. Please, can we not argue?" "Then when do we talk, Daniel? When you're done pretending I don't exist?" He rubbed his forehead. "This is exactly what I mean. You're always making drama out of nothing." She felt her throat tighten. "Nothing? You call this nothing?" He didn't answer. He walked past her, straight to the bedroom, leaving her standing alone beside the untouched plates. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't cry. She was too tired to cry. 2 nights later, Emily's worst fear became real. Daniel left his phone on the counter while he showered. The screen lit up. A message from Sophie. "She suspects nothing. See you tomorrow night." Emily froze. Her pulse quickened. She stared at the words until they blurred. She could barely breathe. When Daniel came back, she acted normal, silent, trembling, but calm. She didn't ask. She didn't confront. She just smiled and said, "Good night." But inside, something broke. All night, her mind raced. Maybe Sophie was talking about work. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe Daniel wasn't cheating, just distant. But deep down, she knew. The truth was already clawing at her heart. At dawn, she sat by the window, watching the sun rise. She whispered, "What happened to us?" By the third week of silence and suspicion, Emily reached her breaking point. Her friend Clara called, her voice bright as always. "Girl, you sound miserable. What's wrong?" Emily hesitated, then told her everything. The distance, the message, the emptiness. Clara sighed. "You're trying too hard. Maybe flip the script a little." "What do you mean?" "Men act different when they think they're about to be fathers. Try it. Say you're pregnant. See if he still acts like a ghost." "Clara, that's insane." "So is letting him treat you like wallpaper." Clara shot back. "Just see what happens." Emily laughed weakly. "You're crazy." "Crazy works sometimes," Clara said. That night, when Daniel came home, Emily stood in the doorway while her hands trembling. "Daniel," she said softly, "I have something to tell you." He looked up, distracted. "What is it?" "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air. Daniel froze. For a moment, she thought he'd call her bluff, but instead his face softened, a smile she hadn't seen in months spread across his lips. Pregnant? He repeated, stepping closer. She nodded, forcing a shy smile. I just found out. Daniel's eyes widened and he laughed, a sound that nearly broke her heart. He wrapped his arms around her, whispering, Oh my God! This changes everything. That night, he didn't work late. They had dinner together. They talked. He even kissed her forehead before bed. For the first time in months, Emily felt seen. Days turned into weeks. Daniel started coming home early, bringing her flowers, cooking dinner. He called her baby again. He talked about names, nurseries, and baby clothes. Every gesture made her heart ache, because she knew it was built on a lie. But she couldn't stop. Not now. Not when it felt like she finally had him back. One evening, while Daniel was out, Emily stood in front of the mirror, pressing her palm against her flat stomach. You're a terrible person, she whispered to her reflection. But at least you're loved again. When Daniel came home, he kissed her cheek and said, How are you feeling? Fine, she lied again. He smiled. I made an appointment with Dr. Lewis Blahas just to check on everything. Emily's heart skipped. An appointment? Yeah, Friday afternoon. He's our family doctor. He'll take care of you. She froze. I don't think I need it yet. Daniel frowned. Why not? You said you're pregnant, right? Yes, it's too early. He nodded slowly but didn't push further. That night, Emily barely slept. The lie had spiraled out of control. She couldn't fake medical tests. She couldn't keep pretending. On Friday, she told Daniel she wasn't feeling well and that she'd go alone. He agreed, but insisted she see the doctor. At noon, she sat outside Dr. Lewis's office, trembling. She planned to ask him to play along, to say she'd come in, nothing serious yet. But as she walked down the hall, she heard voices inside the consultation room. Daniel's voice. She froze. Through the slightly open door, she heard him say, I just wanted to confirm what you told me, doctor. She's not pregnant, right? Doctor. Lewis sighed. I'm sorry, Daniel, but no. The results from last year show she wasn't expecting then, and there's been no new visit. Are you sure she said she was? She did, Daniel said quietly. I think she's lying to me. But I'm not angry. I just want to know why. Emily's throat went dry. Her hand trembled against the doorframe. She's been lonely, the doctor replied gently. Sometimes people do desperate things when they feel unseen. Daniel exhaled, his voice low. I guess I did that to her. I made her feel invisible. Emily backed away, her heart pounding. He knew. He'd known all along. When Daniel came home that night, he acted normal, almost too normal. He kissed her forehead, asked about dinner, and even joked about cravings. His tenderness felt strange. He knew she was lying, yet he played along. And that terrified her. She started noticing things. Daniel on late-night calls again, messages he quickly deleted. Her gut twisted every time he smiled at his phone. One night, after he left for a meeting, Emily followed him. Her hands shook as she drove quietly behind his car through the rain. He stopped at an apartment complex downtown. She parked across the street, heart racing. From the car, she saw him knock on a door, and Sophie opened it. Sophie was visibly pregnant. Emily's world spun. Daniel stepped inside, closing the door behind him. Emily sat frozen, gripping the steering wheel until her nails dug into her palms. The lie she'd built to save her marriage had just revealed a truth worse than she'd imagined. She stayed in the car for almost an hour, waiting for him to come out. When he finally did, he looked calm, peaceful even. He kissed Sophie's cheek before leaving. Emily's tears fell silently as she whispered, You knew I was lying, but you were lying too. When Daniel came home, she pretended to sleep. He slipped into bed beside her, wrapped his arm around her waist, and whispered, I love you, Em. She bit her lip to stop herself from crying. The next morning, sunlight crept through the curtains, but Emily felt trapped in darkness. She lay there still, staring at Daniel as he buttoned his shirt. Every movement of his felt like a lie. Every I love you from last night echoed like poison. When he left for work, she sat at the edge of the bed, numb. Her heart pounded, her breath shallow. She had no tears left, just a hollow ache that burned inside her chest. Hours passed before she finally stood, walked to her mirror, and whispered, No more pretending. By evening, when Daniel returned, she was waiting for him at the table. Dinner was set, candles lit, but this time her eyes were cold. He smiled cautiously. You cooked? Yes, she said quietly. We need to talk. He froze for a moment, then sat down slowly. What's going on? She stared straight into his eyes. I went to Dr. Lewis. Daniel's fork stopped midair. You? What? I know you went there first, she continued. I heard everything. He swallowed hard, then put the fork down. Emily. No, don't. You knew I was lying. Her voice shook. Why didn't you just confront me? Daniel exhaled, guilt flickering across his face. Because I didn't want to hurt you more. I knew something was wrong. I thought if I pretended, maybe you'd open up to me again. Pretended? She repeated, her voice rising. You mean like how you pretended to work late while visiting Sophie? The color drained from his face. Emily? Don't lie. She cut him off. I followed you. I saw her. I saw everything. Daniel's jaw tightened. He rubbed his forehead. It's not what you think. She laughed bitterly. Then explain how your assistant is pregnant with your child. He fell silent. That silence was her confirmation. Emily's chest heaved. You made me feel like I was crazy for noticing you change. You made me doubt myself. And all this time, you were building a new life with someone else. Daniel's eyes glistened. I didn't mean for this to happen. Sophie was there when everything between us started falling apart. I was angry, confused. So you found comfort in someone else's bed, she snapped. He looked down, ashamed. It was one mistake that became complicated. She didn't plan the pregnancy. I didn't either. Emily's voice broke. You destroyed us, Daniel. Do you even realize that? He looked at her with tears in his eyes. I never stopped caring about you. Don't say that, she shouted, slamming her hand on the table. If you cared, you would have fought for us. You would have talked to me instead of disappearing into someone else's arms. Her voice trembled, but she refused to cry in front of him. Daniel reached for her hand, but she pulled away. I can't do this anymore, she whispered. Emily, please, leave. Just listen. Leave, she screamed, her voice echoing through the house. Daniel stood there for a moment, eyes wet, then quietly walked out. The door shut with a soft click, the sound of something breaking for good. Emily sank to the floor, hugging her knees as tears streamed down her face. For the first time in weeks, she let herself cry. Deep, shaking sobs that came from the core of her being. The candles burned down to puddles of wax as the room filled with silence once again. Days passed. Daniel didn't call. Emily didn't reach out. The house felt emptier than ever, but strangely peaceful. She spent her days walking through the park, thinking, replaying every memory, the laughter, the love, the slow erosion that led here. At night, she'd lie awake, asking herself where everything went wrong. Was it her lie that ended it, or his? Maybe both. One afternoon, Clara stopped by, holding takeout. You look like hell, she said softly. Emily managed a small smile. I feel like it. Clara sat beside her. You told him? Everything. Clara sighed. How did he react? Emily laughed bitterly. Like a man who just realized his double life exploded. Clara hesitated. Do you still love him? Emily looked down at her hands. I don't know. Maybe I love who he used to be. Clara nodded slowly. You'll heal, Em. You always do. For a while they sat in silence, the hum of the city drifting through the window. That night, Emily finally opened her laptop and began typing, not to Daniel, but to herself. She titled the document Dear Me. Her fingers trembled as she wrote. Open quote. You lied because you were desperate to be loved. You thought pretending would bring him back. But love built on lies is just an illusion, a mirror that shatters when truth walks in. You don't need to be pregnant to matter. You don't need to fake life to feel alive again. Close quote. When she finished, she sat back and exhaled. For the first time, her chest felt lighter. The next morning, she woke up early and took a long walk by the lake. The air was crisp, the sky painted in soft gold. She sat on a bench and watched families stroll by, couples laughing, children chasing pigeons. For the first time, she didn't envy them. She simply observed. A week later, an envelope arrived in the mail, Daniel's handwriting on the front. Her heart skipped, but she didn't open it right away. She stared at it for hours before finally tearing it open. Inside was a letter. Open quote. Emily, I don't know how to start this. I'm sorry, not just for the affair, but for how I made you feel. I made you small when you needed love. Sophie's pregnancy, it ended. She lost the baby 2 weeks ago. I haven't seen her since. I don't expect forgiveness. I just hope one day you find peace, with or without me. Daniel. Close quote. Emily sat there, reading the words over and over. She felt nothing. No rage, no relief, just quiet acceptance. She folded the letter, tucked it away, and whispered, "Goodbye." Later that evening, she visited the nursery they had decorated, the room filled with soft colors, baby toys, and untouched hope. She stood there for a long moment before switching off the light and closing the door. The next morning, she packed a suitcase, just a few clothes, her journal, and her laptop. She looked around the house. The walls that once echoed laughter now just held memories. She smiled faintly, locked the door behind her, and drove away. The road stretched endlessly before her, bathed in morning light. She didn't know where she was going, but for once, that uncertainty felt like freedom. A few weeks later, she rented a small apartment near the coast. The place was quiet, a perfect contrast to the chaos she'd left behind. She found a part-time job at a bookstore, started painting again, and even joined a weekend writing group. Every night before bed, she'd read a line from her letter to herself, a reminder that healing wasn't about forgetting, but forgiving the version of herself that had once believed lies were love. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, she sat on her balcony with a cup of tea. The waves crashed softly in the distance. Her phone buzzed. A message from Clara. "How are you holding up?" Emily smiled and typed back, "Better," finally breathing again. Clara replied with a heart emoji. Emily set her phone aside, leaned back, and whispered, "I'm okay." For the first time, she actually meant it. Weeks turned into months. The pain dulled, replaced by quiet strength. Sometimes she'd still think of Daniel, not with anger, but with gratitude for the lessons he unknowingly gave her. She realized that sometimes people come into your life not to stay, but to teach you how to stand on your own. And standing on her balcony that night, the ocean breeze brushing her hair, she finally understood. She didn't need anyone's attention to feel whole again. She had herself. Open quote, "I faked a pregnancy to make him see me. But what I found was something deeper. The truth that no love can heal a person who doesn't love themselves first. Sometimes losing love is how you find yourself again." Close quote. Open quote. If this story touched you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us, what would you have done if you were in Emily's place? Close quote. Open quote. Some lies destroy trust, but others reveal the truth we've been hiding from ourselves all along. Close quote.